Welcome to another edition of Geopolitics and Empire. As always, support the transmission. But the best way you can do that is by becoming a paid subscriber on the Substack. I do weekly news analysis and organize off-the-record calls with supporters only every couple weeks. And you can donate, purchase a console if you want to chat with me through the website. And do check out all of my affiliates. Wise Wolf Gold Above Phone will have Hakeem Anwar back of Above Phone next week to talk about his digital ID report that just dropped. And speaking of above phone privacy and surveillance, that's our topic for today. Joining us for the first time are Glenn and Eric Meter of the privacyacademy.com. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
I'm just going to show real quick on the web on the screen for people who are viewing your website. Here's privacyacademy.com. I've seen it everywhere. A lot of people listening to this podcast listen to G. Edward Griffin. I was checking out Iconic. Gareth Ike was talking about you guys, and so you've got classes covering everything when it comes to privacy and surveillance. And if you want to just tell us a bit about the work you guys do.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So yeah, we have all we do is we teach people how to get private. We're targeted at the average non-techie person. So we want to help normal people get private. We have pre-recorded courses that you can take at your own speed. We have a community, and I really love the community. That's where you can go in, you can interact with other people. People share news, maybe it's personal experiences. Oh, I went to a store and they were asking for this, personal information, so on. They can ask questions. And then we also have live trainings every week from privacy experts. We've got multiple live trainings, so you can join, watch live, and answer your questions right away. So it's an all-in-one solution, taking you from a beginner, completely unaware of what's going on or how to fix it, and then you can go down the rabbit hole as far as you want to go.
Yeah, and we specialize in people that are non-techie. I mean, that's really what we do. We want to be approachable for everybody. And I think that's really the hole that we are filling, is that, the techie space, anyone that tries to explain that, it's a difficult concept to explain to the average person. So we are very good at explaining complex subjects to non-techie people.
No, that's good, and even for people who are somewhat techie, as myself, I find the sort of work that you do valuable, because there's stuff probably that I've missed, and maybe you have a suggestion. I mean, looking through the website, you cover things: private email, password managers, browsers, search engines, phone privacy, VPNs, and then maybe there was VPN that you guys covered that I've been experimenting with VPNs recently, like Mulvad, iVPN. I didn't like Mulvad because everyone lauds them, but when I go to Russia Today, not a fan, but I got to read everything. RT is blocked by Mulvad, and it seems like it's from the RT side, not Mulvad. And so again, you got to kind of go through all of this stuff. And again, there's listeners of mine that are older, not techie, and you can. I've said before, you can de-Google your own phone with Graphene OS if you have the time and want to figure out how to do that. If you don't have the time, if you're a non-techie, as you say, just buy. You'll have to pay a higher price, but you can just buy one that's already made. And maybe if you could tell us then, looking big picture, when it comes to privacy and surveillance, what's the lay of the land from your perspective in terms of, like, what are the biggest threats? Because in this day and age, it's getting pretty crazy. Our governments are becoming more authoritarian. People are getting fined and jailed for thought crime. So how do you guys see all of this?
I think it comes down to looking at what you can control, and then the rest will be okay. The way I look at it is there's the political aspect of it. So what we do is we have flyers that you can share. We're working on building local communities where people can come together and form, alternative currencies, whatever. And that's, again, stuff that is political. But then what can you control in your home? Like you said, a de-Googled phone. You can switch to private email. You can do a private browser. You can use Linux. There's like a list that is basically never ending. I mean, if you look at big tech, they have infiltrated every aspect of our lives. And so you have to dig yourself out of that if you want to continue to use modern technology and be private and free. And I'd say one of the best examples of how it directly affects people is the way that they're able to use propaganda nowadays. Because if you look throughout history, lies and deception, that's always been a thing. But then when newspaper came out or radio or TV, they were able to broadcast the same lie to everyone everywhere, but it was still the same lie. But nowadays we have smart devices. So for example, let's say you have an iPhone, it's with you everywhere you go. It sees who you text, what you believe, what you're afraid of, all of these things, and it creates this detailed profile on you. And so now the propaganda isn't just this blanket message to everyone. It's these are this person's hot buttons. This is how we can slowly manipulate him. Maybe it's through memes or articles that we show in the timeline in the correct order to really radicalize people. And I think that's why we've seen people get so radicalized over the last, decade or so.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, what we teach in the class is there are three threats online. There's three threats that you face. So there's hackers and scammers, there's big tech, and there's Big Brother. And all three of those threats are very serious. Hackers and scammers are very serious, and they're getting more so because they're getting superpowered with AI. But then you've got the existential threat of the Big Brother, and Big Brother and big tech are really working together. They're colluding, and it is they're creating a very dystopian world. It's a very disturbing where they want to take us. Now, whether we're going to go down that path, whether we're going to let them do that, is up to us. But they have the infrastructure in place, and it's quite dark where they want to take us, as you know. And but here's the thing: all three of those threats want the same thing. They all want your data. And this is one of the things that people don't understand. They don't put enough value on their data. I like to say information is power. And when they have information about you, they have power over you. And so it's very important that we stop giving them our data. And whether that is our digital data, whether that is going to Walgreens and you check out and you give them your phone number, why are they doing that? Why are they asking for your phone number? Because they're going to sell that. They're going to sell your purchase history to Google and the NSA and all of these countries. And those are all data points that the AI can pull together and create a big picture about you, understand you, and then use that to predict your actions and then manipulate you, specifically you. And that's really why they do it. And so I think the key is we have to stop giving them our data.
I think that's a really good point. And I often tell my stories. I'm here in Mexico. Every time I go to Walmart or the Oxxo corner store, and it's, in some cases, it's the same lady. She knows me. And every single time she knows I say no, yet she asks every single time because she's incentivized. I believe she'll get a commission. She's like, "Oh, do you have the points card for Oxxo?" And I'm like, "No." I come, next time. "Oh, do you have the points card?" "No." And at Walmart, it's like I told them the last time. My forefathers come from communist Yugoslavia. My grandfather was a prisoner of the fascist Nazis, and I'm like, "Is this the Soviet Union? Like, I have to give my phone number to buy bread and milk?" And it's exactly as you say. So my question there is, so this is what all we should be doing. And your point is very strong when you say protecting our data. And I want to get to the other points, not just from Big Brother, but from the scammers, which are getting worse and worse. But what about the masses? So because I'm probably the only guy, I'm 1 or 2%, at max 5% of people who will say, "I'm not giving you my number." But what happens if 95% of people are just, they don't think about this?
Yeah, I mean, that's there's going to be a lot of people that just accept this. But I think we have to, this is what our mission is to educate people about the importance of what we're doing, the importance of keeping your data safe, the importance of privacy, and the importance of getting away from the surveillance state, which is both the companies and the government. They're working together. So I don't know. We look at our business as, okay, we as a business are growing well. and we're happy with the growth that we have. But we're a company based on a mission, and that mission is to preserve liberty for people, because the main way that our liberty is under attack is through the technology, the surveillance. And I am concerned about the speed that the mission that we have. The mission needs to grow much faster. And so we're trying to get out there. You said you see us everywhere. That's true in a particular niche of audiences, right? But we need to grow this much faster than we are. And that's what we're trying to do. That's our challenge, is to get the word out there.
And I think it also comes down to, there's a quote that Glenn and I really love from Leonardo da Vinci, and it's, there's those who see when they're shown, and there's those who will never see. There is a big portion of people that will never see what's happening, even if it's right in front of their face. But there's a big portion of people that will see when they're shown, and I think they just haven't seen enough yet. I mean, asking for your phone number for a coupon, it's dystopian, but it's not like sent to the gulags level. That's something that they just can move along with their day on. And as they start to encroach this on more areas of your life, okay, maybe you need iris scan to purchase, or maybe I don't know, maybe you can't get onto a bus without an iris scan, that sort of thing. That's when it becomes real. And that's when awareness is really there. But the problem is they're trying to set up a system that, if that's in place, you can't really do anything. So it's a dangerous thing.
To get just your further thought before moving to Big Brother, you mentioned criminals and scammers, and just over the weekend, I was explaining to some Mexican friends, we're touching on some of these topics. First of all, some of them didn't even know what VPNs were, so I'm explaining to them VPNs, and I told them that I use a VPN to protect myself from a whole host of things, but from my own ISP, which again, I live in Mexico, and there's no one knows where the cartels begin and where the government ends, or vice versa. And they've got cartel criminals in banks, in government, in every institution. So, or just corrupt people. And what if there's, there probably are criminals in my ISP company, and so they could probably, if they wanted to, look at me and see what I'm doing. So I use a VPN to protect. So at least my ISP, and my Mexican friends had a good question. They're like, well, how can you trust a VPN? They could potentially see what you're doing. But I'm kind of like, yeah, but at least my bigger enemies are the ones, closer to me in my vicinity in Mexico. So the VPN might get my info, but they're further from me. So at least I protect myself from the immediate threat. My wife had her identity stolen so the Mexican tax service said that she worked for 11 companies in a span of 3 years, which is not even humanly possible. And she wasn't even in the country at the time. And so again, her data was being sold to make money on scams. And so if you could just maybe tell us, maybe some people aren't aware, they focus a lot on Big Brother, but they don't focus enough on the phishing scam aspect.
Yeah. You want me to take that, Eric?
Sure.
Yeah. So the scammer part is a very serious issue. And I would say of the three, it's probably the most immediate threat that there is. I mean, the Big Brother is the existential threat to everything that we know. But the scammers is definitely the most immediate threat. And it is getting supercharged with AI. They know that they've always been, well, I don't want to say always, but for the past, let's say 10 years, they have been very sophisticated. But now they're getting even much more so. So there are scams. There are so many countless scams that we can talk about. Phishing scams where they get you to call a number and then they get you on a phone call, and that is it's a scammer. It's not. So it's you get a thing says we have an emergency with your PayPal account. Please call us at such and such number. You get on the call, and it's obviously not PayPal. It's a scammer. But what they'll do is they'll keep the pressure on. One of the tactics is they keep the pressure on, they keep you knocked off balance, and then they can convince you to do some really crazy things. There is a a journalist for, I think it was the New York Times, and she was one of the chief investment journalists, and she wrote this article that says, I am so ashamed to write this article here, but I have been scammed out of $50,000 from scammers. I put the money in a shoebox. They drove by the house and I handed it to them. And as soon as I did that, I just kind of snapped out of this hypnotic thing that I was in, and I realized what I just did. And she said, I cannot believe I consider myself to be a very sophisticated person. I cannot believe I just did this. And what they do is they keep you off balance. They keep you paranoid, fear-based. And this is what they did with COVID. Propaganda works the same way. If they can keep you on edge, fearful, angry, then your rational brain doesn't work. It's you get into that fear mode and you're not thinking rationally. And so they can get you to do things. That's one of the main things that they do.
G. Edward Griffin had a great quote about it. He said, I never met a con artist that I didn't trust. And it's true. I mean, people fall for it. And if you look at modern hacking and scam groups, they're not just like one-off people, like a guy sitting in his underwear in a basement. They are very organized. I mean, they're organized crime. They could be hacking groups in the military. One of the biggest actors right now is North Korea has a hacking team that funds their their military. So it is really high-powered attacks. And, as the average person who's not expecting anything, you are in a lot of danger if you're not prepared at all.
Yeah, I mean, just this morning, I get from time to time emails from, to your point. I mean, some of the methods, Geek Squad. I'm not even in the U.S. or McAfee, and they send you a bill, and it's funny, and it plays to what you're saying. I got an email saying we're going to charge you $452 from your Geek Squad, and I think, I have my email set up so it doesn't show images because you guys are well aware they can put pixels where they insert malware in the images, or if you click on, so they want me to follow up with them, probably click a link or call them, and that's where the scam begins. Or in my Telegram channel group for Geopolitics and Empire, constantly I'm fending off these. They put pretty ladies. Some of them are porno scams. Others mostly are crypto scams, and I have to constantly be deleting and blocking that stuff. And then maybe then to move on to the Big Brother aspect, and I just want to share again the screen, something that just happened yesterday. You had to your point. So we have you guys were saying I think you were alluding to it's hard to control the information space now with the internet, and so you've had Emmanuel Macron come out, and he gave a speech yesterday saying we must regain control of our democratic and informational life. So, he's being attacked because they're saying his wife is a man. Frederic Baldan. So he filed a complaint against Frau Ursula Gertrude von der Leyen, and he immediately had his bank accounts frozen. So I just, I think I had a funny meme. I'm trying to pull it up here. Yeah, here it is. That's a hell of a coincidence that he sues the EU Commission president, and suddenly banks are blocking his accounts. Yep. And then Obama just gave a talk about it's time to experiment with new forms of journalism with government regulatory constraints. So we've seen in Canada already, they're basically saying to do podcasting or journalism, you need a license. China just dropped a rule where they said you can't comment on topics unless you have a degree. And I just had a funny quibble. I guess I can continue doing Geopolitics and Empire podcast because I have a master's in international relations. So I'm still good. But just continuing on this note, it was one thing, 9/11, Patriot Act, Edward Snowden, those 20 years, and then COVID came, which sort of then took us to phase 2 of this biosecurity, digital ID, algorithm ghetto, 15-minute city dystopia. And just maybe before looking at some solutions, how do you guys see this total surveillance state when it comes from the government. I've been deplatformed from Patreon. The Department of Homeland Security banned me permanently from PayPal. I'll frequently get the secondary screening, the 4Ss, the famous 4Ss when you fly in the US. Tulsi Gabbard would get it every time she flew because she was under the TSA's, what's it called? Something Skies surveillance program. But just, how do you guys see the whole Big Brother space?
I think what you bring up is a great point of how they're trying to push a narrative that the internet needs to be controlled. And one of the important points that I think needs to be said is it's not just the left doing this. The right is pushing really hard for censorship as well. And so, for example, you look at Texas, they are really pushing digital IDs in a big way, because the argument always starts with, okay, we have to protect the children from watching porn online. And then as soon as they do that, about a week passes, and then it's, okay, what about all searches? And then what about the App Store? And it just really slippery slopes. And I think while we're living in such hectic and chaotic times, we really need to focus on liberty instead of going down these rabbit holes. Because there's someone named Nick Fuentes who is doing this whole thing talking about, he says, okay, what if I told you in the Holocaust they were burning books that were transgender books targeted to kids? And then to a lot of people, they're like, yeah, that's a good idea, burn those books. But whatever angle that they take it from, it always comes down to taking liberty away from people. So we need to be able to hold on to liberty really strong, because I don't think we can underestimate how strong their narrative is. They make good arguments, and it is easy for people on all sides to fall for it.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that the purpose of the digital ID is to crush freedom of speech. That's really what it comes down to. They want this is the anchor point of their control grid, and they have seen, they did a test run with the COVID, and it was actually moving forward. It looked like it was going to succeed for them until it stopped in the red states and in the U.S. And I think it stopped because in America, in the red states at least, we believe that our rights come from God, and that the state doesn't have the authority to infringe upon those rights. The unfortunate thing, like Eric's saying, is the online digital ID now is being pushed by the red states, and because they're posing it in such a way that, okay, we got to protect the kids. And it's amazing to me that people buy this, that, okay, now we've got to trust, now we can trust the government all of a sudden to take care of our kids, as, they for the past however many years, they're the ones that have been putting this pornography on our elementary school libraries. We really have to stop this, and we have to stand up for this. And I think there are a lot of people that have the ears to hear what our message is, but we just need to get the message out there and figure out how to get the message out there. Ultimately, I am optimistic that we will stop this, at least in some places. I think there will be definitely some places that fall full force into this control grid. I think Australia, New Zealand, Canada, they're not fighting back. They don't seem to have an awareness of what's going on. There's other parts of Europe that are probably going to they're going to fall for this. I think there's places in the U.S. The thing that's beautiful about the U.S. is the Constitution, and it creates a decentralized power structure. But for the past 100 years, we haven't enforced that decentralized power structure. The states have to enforce that power structure. And so this is the time where we need to really stand up at the state level and, enforce the 10th Amendment and just basically kick the federal government out. But that's going to take a lot of work and a lot of courage by we the people. I don't think it's a left or right thing. It's not a Democratic Republican thing. It's a we the people thing. Have to start fighting on the state level and the local level.
Liberty versus tyranny.
Yeah, I'm working more on the local level now to try to be the example of people all around the U.S. that we can stand up on a local level and the states have the authority to fight back and to limit the power of the federal government, and so we just need to do that. And the states have the power to nullify federal laws that are not legal laws, that go against the Constitution. Constitution is still the law, the supreme law of the land. So we have a 5-step process that we believe is important for doing this. And, getting private and secure is one of those things. But anyway, I've been talking for a long time. I'll let you.
You mentioned digital ID just real quick. And, I agree with you. There are places, I interviewed way back in 2012. Edwin Black, the famed Jewish historian who wrote IBM and the Holocaust, how IBM created the first paper computer, effectively the first form of digital ID, IBM. And then I pointed out during COVID how IBM was working on the COVID digital pass. Rockefeller Foundation, which advised the Germans on their eugenicist policies. Rockefeller Foundation was also advising governments on their eugenicist COVID policies. Yeah. So nothing has changed for 70, 80 years, but in digital. And so, as you say, we saw countries like Vietnam are coming down hard. They froze 86 million people's bank accounts. And then there are other countries that are showing signs of life, as you mentioned, the US. And so I often get a question about digital ID. My response is, as you say, disseminate this information as much with here wherever you are locally, where I am through my podcast, and then I create multiple contingencies. I have a number of phone numbers. I have my ISP internet, my Starlink. I just bought a third internet hotspot device, having just multiple passports, multiple forms of ID, to sort of try and skirt around the system. But people ask me, for example, in Mexico, the digital ID they announced this summer, the CURP biométrico. The CURP is kind of like your national ID number. And now they want to make it biometric, let's say digital. And they're saying it's the same COVID scam. So it's not mandatory, right? Like the vaccine wasn't, but you just couldn't work or fly or eat. Yeah. So it's not mandatory. I mean, you'll starve to death, but it's not mandatory. And so people ask me, like, in using Mexico as an example, what can we do? What are we going to do? And my first thought is resist as long as humanly possible. Like, try not get the digital ID. But then what happens when enough people get it? So they've broken through that first phase of critical mass, and now the tax agency or someone says you won't get paid anymore. I won't get my Substack payment because I haven't gotten my CURP biométrico. What does one do then in that instance?
Yeah, I think we need to adopt a policy of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And so one of the things, I assume you're familiar with Goldbacks.
I have got a couple, and I've interviewed the guy behind them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think if we have 1 foot in, where we just have to, we have to live our lives. If, I would say try to avoid that as much as possible. But the thing with the 1 foot out is I don't want them having total leverage over me. And so if we can create a local community. And so the thing with Goldbacks is, so this is for everyone that doesn't know, this is actual gold. So it's not like the old bills that were gold, that were backed by gold, that were paper bills that were backed by gold that was sitting in the bank. This is actual gold. And so this one is 1/200th of a troy ounce of gold. And so it's a very cool concept, but it's only a concept until we can get a local economy working on this. So if I have a business and I accept Goldbacks, okay, where can I go spend them? Is there a farmer that I can go buy meat with these? Is there a mechanic that I can go get a car fixed with these? And then if we've got our own little economy going there, then we can live and work, and we can do that in kind of a separate little ecosystem. So we can survive and thrive in this separate ecosystem. It's kind of like the Amish. I'm not suggesting we become the Amish, but they have their own little community within our community, and we can do the same thing. And I think that's an important step. But I do think the most important step is we have a small window of time to stand up for liberty. We have a small window when we have to do everything that we can within that small window of time to do this right now. And this takes courage. You're standing up, you're speaking the truth. I encourage people not to get a prepper mentality where you just, okay, well, I'm taken care of. I'm going to hunker back here and if the world burns, okay, let it burn, but I'm going to be okay. That's not what we can do in this case. We have to fight to preserve liberty, or our kids and our grandkids and their kids will never know liberty again. They're creating this control structure that will enslave us, and we have to stop this. And so me and Eric are firm on our belief that we have to stand up for this. And
yeah, and I think it's important too, when you talk about 1 foot in, 1 foot out, that's not like a half measure. That's 1 foot out and I'm growing. Like, we're growing an alternative currency. And then the foot that's in, I'm refusing. I'm saying no to illegal laws. And it's a thing about growth. And you could go all in. I don't think that's realistic for average people. We want to do something where most people are both feet in right now. So get 1 foot out and then use that as the first stepping stone to rebuild society the way that it's supposed to be, which is mainly local.
I got a few comments there. So in the past, there were other podcasters that were extreme. A handful had attacked me in the past. Some of my own guests that just went schizo and flipped on me. But one person had, and I think I'd agree with you guys to have 1 foot in, because that's survival mode. That's how, the money you need to function, to build out that second foot. And there were people that would say, oh, you can't use crypto at all because you're promoting the, digital gulag. And I'm like, wait. So by that same logic, this person is using fiat Federal Reserve dollars for sure. So it's like, well, that means you can't use that economy, because those fiat Federal Reserve dollars are part of the same system that's whipping out the crypto, and you're going to have to go live completely rural. And you can't buy the hammer from Home Depot because Home Depot is probably invested in by BlackRock. So you got to make your own hammer, fashion your own hammer to fashion your own, it doesn't make any sense. Those sorts of people that attack you for having 1 foot in when they themselves have, 1 foot in. And then the prepper mentality, I think that, so my Christian friends, they made a good point. Years ago, I interviewed a pastor from New York who wrote a good book on Christianity and the Great Reset. And I asked them, like, if things get really bad and dystopian, there's that great movie from Kurt Russell, Escape from New York. Will you go to a rural area and sort of escape the dystopian 15-minute city? And he's like, why? Because no, because if it's the end of the world, it's the end of the world. Like, there's no point. It doesn't matter if you're urban or rural, right? If it really gets to that point, we're all completely screwed, including the preppers. And so my Christian friends were also saying, yeah, but the Bible says that you should still be participating in society, and kind of what you guys are saying, helping people in the world that we are, being there. And if you're prepping if you in your little hideaway, you're not doing anything to help anyone else or resist the system. So I think this is just another point to having 1 foot in and 1 foot out is you need to participate in daily life. For some people, maybe they're retirement age and they've gone, but just to those points, and maybe looking at solutions again. So we've talked. You've already mentioned some of them, fighting against the legislation. Solutions when it comes to privacy again, like de-Googled phones. F-Droid was just attacked. Laptops and desktops, which most people use. Windows 11 now is pushing Copilot recall and pushing everything to the cloud. Like if you have I don't use Microsoft Word again. I use LibreOffice, which is great. And the new Windows Windows 10 just became obsolete this month, and they want to push you to save your files by default to the cloud and no longer on your own computer. And I'm about to buy another SSD drive where I will install Linux on that drive. Switch to that. If it's going to be the case where I'll have one program or two that will only run on Windows 10 or 11, and then I can switch back for that moment just to use that program and then go back to Linux. So just so some more solutions that you guys recommend for remaining private from both the digital ID system or scammers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we try to start very high level because, if you start with a phone or a computer, ultimately that's where you want to go. But a lot of times people can start there and get overwhelmed. It's a big change. And it is more on the tech savvy aspect too. So knowledge is really important, starting in a planned way where you can move one small step at a time. So we talk about like private email, for example, or setting up the correct VPN. When it comes to hacks and scams, okay, you got to get a general awareness of the different types of hacks and scams that are out there today. Your search engine, then you can go down as far as you want. I mean, one of the other really simple ones, we're actually holding we held the class yesterday on this, was low tech solutions. Low tech is a lot better than high tech in a lot of ways because it can't be fooled. So for example, low tech meaning a webcam cover, or you have a hardware kill switch for your microphone, like a blocker that way. There's USB secure chargers. So one of the things is called juice jacking, where if you I'm sure if you've seen at airports, they have, free charging station. That's, there's no such thing as a free sandwich. So why are they giving away free energy? Well, it's because a lot of those are designed to steal your data. And so with one of those secure chargers, you can prevent that. But do you have anything you want to add, Glenn?
Yeah, I want to say something about what you were talking about with resist the digital ID as long as possible. I believe that we have to take a different perspective. I think we have to take the perspective of we're going to win this. We're going to, at least in certain areas, we can not just resist, but we can gain more liberty than we've had for 100 years. And that would be through the 10th Amendment and standing up for our rights and really insisting on more liberty. And I think that's where we've got to go. I think if we just resist, that's just putting things off. That's like, okay, I'm gonna resist for as long as I can, but it's still inevitable that it's coming. I don't want to believe that it's inevitable. I don't think, I think a belief in God helps in this regard. I don't, you can look at all the powers that are aligned against us, and you can get like, how can we fight this? But still, we the people have the power, and ultimately, God is in charge. So, I look at everything that they're doing here as it can be seen as a house of cards, and if we do it right, the house of cards can fall, and we can get more liberty than we've had. And so I think we've got to look at it that way. And I know that will be a big stretch for a lot of people. A lot of people are black pilled, and they just don't want to. They just, this is inevitable. We're screwed, But
I think the best way to look at it is that story you said earlier with the prepper versus the pastor. I think if you just distill that whole story, preppers have the idea, but they're doing it out of fear. When you look at the pastor, he has the idea too, but he's doing it out of love. So you need to look at like your fuel source for your actions. And I think love is the strongest one.
Yeah. And love being, I love my country. I love my liberty. I love my kids and their kids. And I want to protect the liberty for my kids and my grandchildren. And I'm going to do whatever I need to do. So I kind of do this analogy of it. It's time to release your inner mama bear or your inner papa bear. And your kids are literally under attack right now from in a very serious way. It's time to unleash on these people. And I don't say that in a way of like violence or anything, but I want to unleash on liberty. We have to stand up for liberty in a very powerful way.
So maybe I should switch a bit more to the meter perspective. I'm getting your point there, and I was just going to give an example again. Just not complying with a lot of these edicts, for example, digital ID, because as we saw with COVID, and ultimately, I fully agree with you that this is all a house of cards. Whether you look at it from a biblical worldview, because in the end they fail, or from a secular perspective, I cite my past guest, Jacob Nordengard, who says what they're trying to build is technically not feasible. They're going to get to a certain degree, but it's just like the Soviet Union or whatever complex totalitarian system. It's anti-nature, it's anti-human. The amount of energy and resources that is needed to do this, it's not sustainable. It's just not possible. But they've already inflicted a huge amount of pain on us. So there were places they tried the QR codes that people didn't comply, so they retracted them. The COVID passes. There's people I know now that have died from the medical miracles, as one of my past guests have said, or people that I know of right now who are about to die from them, and others who are coming to realize that it was probably the medical miracle that is causing these people to die. And I think that's the same lesson with the digital IDs. And, I almost canceled my ISP because some of the crazy things that they were doing, because I had an alternative, right? Okay, Starlink for now. Yep. But I think we just need to, as you say, not comply, find alternatives, say, okay, I don't need this. I don't ISP, but I'll find another internet. I'll find another solution. It might be painful initially, but I will adapt. I have friends that tell me in my neighborhood, once a week, a farmer comes with a truck and he sells fresh fruit and vegetables, like direct from the farm. Right. So if the shops only offer digital payments or whatever, I'll go buy from the farm. I told this story on the last podcast. I went to a Burger King here. I never do, but it was just we were going out, and you couldn't order from the people anymore. They said you can only use the menus. You can't order from us human beings. And the menu asked me to scan. I was trying. I only had cash and didn't have my phone, and it said put in a PIN number or scan it to finalize your order. And I'm like, scan it with what? I don't have a phone. So I couldn't complete my order. So I just walked out of the Burger King. And if more people did that, they would not get business, and they'd be like, okay, this is not working. We need to go back to humans. And just real quick, yeah, I subscribed to your newsletter. I can't catch your live webinars, but you have the replays, which are great. And I go back and catch them. And maybe just one more example: two-factor authentication. Most people I know don't even use that. And there was a recent news of a Gmail hack, 183 million Gmail emails. And it's like, but I believe if you have a two-factor authentication, you kind of don't really have to worry about it, do you?
It's not foolproof, but let me say it this way: password management is one of the most important things that you can do to be secure online. And part of that is two-factor authentication. There's different levels of two-factor authentication. So this is a YubiKey. You can do app two-factor authentication, which is a great way to go. Even if you do like a text message two-factor authentication. So two-factor authentication means that a password, if you put in your password, that's still not enough to get into your account. There's that other things, and that will be a number that changes every time that you want to log in. And so that's what's meant by two-factor authentication. It is extremely important to do that in every place that you can. I think every place that you sign in online offers a version of two-factor authentication now. And so you really need to take advantage of that. So yeah, it's very important.
I guess maybe one of the other things that AI, your thoughts when it comes to AI facial recognition. I've looked at, if there are contact lenses that you can buy to try and fool iris scanners. That doesn't seem to be the case. But any other thoughts when it comes to the latest sort of dystopian developments, such as artificial intelligence and facial recognition?
Yeah, so it goes back to what Glenn was saying. I think the first thing you should do is don't look for a silver bullet, because one of the problems if you get to like privacy elitists too is like, oh well, a VPN has this fault, so it doesn't, and it's like, yeah, well, it does this well, so you have to take one piece and it solves one problem. There's no silver bullet. When it comes to modern stuff like that, I think there's going to be a lot of solutions for it. It's kind of a cat and mouse game. So they release something, people come out with it. I think the answer does usually lie in low tech. Low tech really beats high tech most of the time. But yeah, I'm confident in it. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Do you want to say anything, Glenn?
Well, yeah, I mean, the AI is a new level of sophistication for scammers, but it's also, I think one thing that people don't understand is, why was AI created in the first place? And I think this is an important thing to understand. Google and the NSA do this thing where they collect every single data point about us as possible, right? And so why do they do that? Because that is information about us, and that's usable information if there's a program that's sophisticated enough to analyze that. So AI was created to organize all the data points about me and about you and about Eric and about everybody, and then organize it, put it into a picture that it can understand, and then it is self-learning. That's the thing about AI, is it's self-learning, meaning that it can learn by its own observations. Excuse me. It can learn through its own observations, and it can get this picture about us and really understand us to a very high degree, and then it can predict our actions, and then it can also be used to manipulate us and to change. So it can predict what we're going to do, but it can also change what we're going to do by controlling what we see and all of that stuff. So that's really AI's superpower, is the manipulation part of things. And I think it's important to understand that. So what I'm talking about there is more at the big tech, big brother level. AI for hackers and scammers, it's really being used to magnify their results. Like pig butchering scams, this is when there's somebody that you form a relationship with online. You meet somebody online, and there's on a dating app or whatever, and there's this dialogue that goes back and forth, and what they want to do is they want to earn your trust. And then once they earn your trust, then they can get a lot of money out of you and all that stuff. The bottleneck for them has always been, okay, I need a body talking to these people. But now with AI, they don't need that body anymore. They can just magnify their program as many times as they need to, so they can attack us all instantaneously at the same time without that bottleneck. So that's one of the examples of how AI is used to magnify the scammers.
Yeah, and one more thing I wanted to add. So let's say there's a Face ID at a store. That's easy. That's something that's really easy to reject. Kind of like what you're talking earlier about Burger King. Okay, I'm not going to shop here. That's ridiculous, But what if it gets to China level, where there's parts of town that are restricted by Face ID? And that is one of the dangers of the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Is the foot that's in, they're going to keep pulling that foot further in and further in. So when we say 1 foot in, 1 foot out, that's not like how you should be and be comfortable. We're there because we need to keep building out. So it is something that will keep advancing. Like I said, there is this cat and mouse game with surveillance. So I know there will be solutions that are going to be really powerful. But it's something that requires personal self-responsibility and action.
I saw a clip the other day of foreigners in China And to enter a neighborhood, they had like gates with the facial recognition screen.
Yep.
And I'm thinking like, but they were low gates. And I'm just thinking whether I was Chinese or a foreigner, like I can just hop the gate. Like I would have done it. Like who cares, you know? And I was just going to mention last night was the first time I was playing with the AI photos, and I was taking photos of my grandparents, and you can turn them into 5 second, 6 second videos. And I do have to say, I was really, it's impressive on one hand, that technology that I guess it can be used in a good way. It's
Yep.
also slightly unnerving, though, because when you look at it from a spiritual perspective, it's like bringing the dead back to life, and so it is a wondrous, but it's kind of like, are we crossing a line? I don't know. But anyways, you have any final thoughts for us, and anything we didn't bring up that you think is important?
So, can I go through my 5-point thing that I believe we need to go to protect our liberty? Is okay. So, first step, we need to become aware. Each of us needs to become aware, and that means listening to people like you, not listening to mainstream propaganda media. I think that's very important. Become aware of specific issues like privacy and surveillance and how that is affecting you. The second thing is to get your own house in order. And that means to get your privacy in order, get your finances in order, get your spirituality in order, however you want to look at that. Third part is we have to share. And that means, we just have to broadcast this message really, really quickly, right? Fourth message is I think we all need to act locally. And so one thing that I'm doing, this is ripped right now actually, but so I have created this local, this is for Nebraska. I'm in Nebraska. So sorry, my phone's ringing here. So what I'm doing is I have an audience, a worldwide audience that I teach privacy and everything. But what I'm going to do starting very soon is I'm going to do a monthly meeting in Nebraska here, where we invite everybody that we can to come, and I will have a different topic every month. I'll invite other people to come, and I want to lift people up on a local level. And so this is all about digital IDs. This is not finished. So this is like a first draft of this, but I want to post this all around town. I want to get people to these meetings. And so that's acting locally. Can we get people in local governments? How do we get our voice heard by the senators and the governor to stand up for our liberty, all of that stuff? The fifth point is once we have done everything that we can do, that's all we can do. And so we have to then surrender to God, turn it over to God, live our life, love life, enjoy life. And that is an important step there. We have to, I don't think we can get black-pilled. I don't believe in being black-pilled. I just believe we have to stand up with courage and do what we need to do.
Yeah. What I'll add to that is you kind of touched base on this earlier when you're talking about the House of Cards, but it's the nature of the universe. Truth is the ultimate nature. So these power seekers, they'll try to cast as many, as pervasive of lies as possible, no matter what machines or whatever. Beneath it all is truth, and I believe that truth is available for anyone who seeks it. And coming into a world of AI where videos and information can be so tampered with, I don't think you should necessarily look outward for information. I think you can draw inspiration from looking inward. So truth is always available, and I think, like Glenn said, we're going to enter a golden age of liberty. I really believe in that.
Well, we win in the end, but it's going to be, I think, extremely rough ride. So, and I take the eternal long-term perspective. So maybe some of us die metaphorically or literally on the battlefield, on the physical plane, but we'll be celebrating in the eternal spiritual realm, or maybe in the as well. We'll be celebrating on the battlefield here. So, thanks for coming on the podcast for the first time. I know I've been following you guys for a while, and we'd crossed paths. We'd chatted it was like a year or two back, and finally got you on. Your links are in the description, but if you want to tell us again where are the best places to find you, the project services you offer.
Yeah, definitely. Just go to privacyacademy.com. You can join our newsletter. Like you said, we try to hold a class pretty much every week, a class, or we do live streams. And then if you want to take the actual step to get private yourself, I recommend just signing up for the membership, where you get access to our top rated courses, the community that I mentioned, and also our live weekly trainings. I'm really grateful for everything that, like, everyone in it. And I'm also really proud of what we've created too. So.
Yeah. So the monthly, if you join the Privacy Academy, it's just a low monthly fee. You can cancel anytime. We don't want to make it over burdensome. I mean, there are some expenses we have with the privacy experts that we have on staff, but I'm very, like Eric said, I'm very proud of what we've created. I think we do a lot of good, and I think we are doing something that no one else is doing, which is providing that avenue for non-techie people to get private and secure. And we do that in a very in a planned way forward, and in a very nice way, and very effective way. So yeah, thank you.